Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another stimulus update. Today we have some good news because Republicans are agreeing to some of the Democrats' terms, which is really good for you and I, which means stimulus could be coming. But one of the questions I've been getting so often lately is, when will stimulus pass, or will it ever pass? Right now, what we know is that yes, millions and millions of Americans do not know when their next check is coming. They do not know, will unemployment get extended? Will they get an additional $400, $500, $600 per week on that federal unemployment? Will airlines get a bailout? Will state and local governments receive some money so that they can stop laying off some of their employees? All these are questions we just don't have an answer to right now. But many people are wondering, when will they see a check hit their bank account? Right now, the problem that we all face is not just that the fact our savings are dwindling away, but the fact that jobs are becoming harder and harder to come by. Some jobs will never come back. Today we saw the jobless claims. It came out this morning, came out Thursday morning. We saw it jump to 898,000 new claims just last week alone. And this number doesn't include the 372,000 claims from people that are self-employed under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. So there's a lot of issues right here. However, although we are seeing our negotiators battle it out over whose plan is better for the economy and the American people, we are seeing both sides agree on certain pieces of legislation, and this is really good news. Just the other day, Republicans, they were offering $45 billion, and that was for testing, tracing, and treatment. Democrats were wanting $75 billion. Senator or Republican or Democrat Ro Khanna said, why don't we go back and tell Republicans it needs to be at $75 billion and we can accept? Well, that was what happened. Republicans, and Steve Mnuchin specifically, came out and told us this morning that Republicans have agreed to give Democrats $75 billion for testing, tracing, and treatment. Well, that's really good. So they went up the additional $30 billion. In addition to that, they're giving an additional $28 billion for a vaccine development. So that's crucial as well. Now, this is really good news because Nancy Pelosi was adamant that no deal would get done unless Republicans understood and grasped the seriousness of this virus. Now that Republicans are on board, it seems like a deal is getting much closer. But to make things even better, and this is much better, Republicans have decided to accept the Democrats' proposal for a national testing strategy. This is what Nancy Pelosi has been saying for weeks, is that yes, the number is important in a way, but it's the language. It's the language in which the money is spent. Well, we now know whatever Democrats were wanting, that is what they're going to get for testing, tracing, and treatment, because Republicans gave in and will accept the Democrats' proposal for the national testing strategy or plan. This means testing, tracing, and treatment should no longer be an issue moving forward. What this means is that we currently only have a handful of items that need to be addressed. Number one, state and local government funding. The big issue here is not really the number. Nancy Pelosi said yes, they are still off by roughly $100 billion, but it's the way that Republicans are wanting to spend the money. Republicans want to have some type of say in the way the money is spent. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats just want to give the money to the states and the local governments and let them decide what they want to do with it. So we'll see what happens there. The other big issue right now is the tax credits. There's child tax credits and there's a earned income credit. Both of those are becoming an issue because Republicans just want to do away with those. Democrats don't want to touch those. Currently, I would assume these would be very safe because getting rid of a tax credit would only slow down the economic recovery moving forward. And it just doesn't make sense to me why the U.S. government would give stimulus to the American people, give an additional $1,200 stimulus check, maybe $1,000 per child, and then they're going to take away the child tax credit. That just doesn't make sense to me. It would make more sense to give an additional, $500 or $1,000 stimulus check to a dependent, but also it would make sense to go and do the child tax credit as well with the stimulus check. So we'll just have to wait and see from there. Also, Nancy Pelosi wants to see Republicans agree to let states spend the money as they wish. And this is not really the way Republicans want to do it. They want to include multiple restrictions so that Republicans don't just go and spend the money on paying for pensions, which the 3 states right now that are the biggest issues are California, New York, and Illinois. So those are the 3 states. And right now, what Republicans don't want is they don't want to give a blank check to certain states and they just pay for pensions. And they leave all their essential workers, their first responders, firefighters, police officers, and people like that, they leave them off on the side to pretty much fend for themselves. So what Republicans want is they want to spend the money on first responders, on essential workers, so that they don't end up in the unemployment line like so many other people. Now, the good news is that yesterday, Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin exchanged documentation. They exchanged documents, and within 24 hours, Republicans came back with additional stimulus to meet the Democratic demands. This is really good because if we can continue to see movement or forward progress like this, then especially over the next week, then we could potentially see a stimulus check come right before the election. So this is really good news. Right now, Americans need money. And it is no secret that even though $1,200 is a decent amount of money, okay, it's not going to change the world, but this will be life-changing to many people. Now for the bad news. Yes, I know. There's always good news. There's always bad news. The bad news right now, which how much you want to read into this, it's up to you. But right now, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is stating that as of this morning, he would not put a bill on the floor for a vote that is near or above $1.8 trillion. His exact quote is, "That's not what I'm going to put on the floor. That's where the administration is willing to go, but my members believe that $500 billion of highly targeted stimulus is the best way to go." Now, I do believe that if a $1.8 trillion stimulus package were to make it to vote on the Senate floor, that it would pass. Because it would have 48 Democrats that would support this, and it would only need 13 additional votes. So 13 Senate Republicans to say yes. And I believe, as of right now, there are currently about 10 to 12 Senate Republicans that would vote yes on a $1.8 trillion stimulus package. So I believe this is very doable, and it's most likely going to happen. Now, over the next few days, I anticipate there to be a lot of good news, some updates, and we are getting closer to a deal. So, as I know more, I promise I will share more. But I just want to create this quick little video to kind of keep you updated on what's going on, what happened throughout the day, and what we expect moving forward. So again, thank you guys for watching. If you can, do me a favor, go ahead, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you guys on the next one.